So, what really fuels me is creating new things that haven't existed in the world. And that process of I have an idea and then taking it from a thought in your brain into the real world is always the thing that just is the endless magic for me. I love that.
You're listening to What Fuels You, where we deep dive with CEOs, entrepreneurs, and business leaders to learn more about their stories and uncover nuggets of wisdom we can all use. I'm your host, Shauna Swerland, CEO of Fuel Talent, an award-winning recruiting firm based in Seattle. Today's guest on the What Fuels You podcast is Raina Kumra. Raina is the founder of Spicewell, a food as medicine startup focused on bringing everyday Ayurveda to the American diet, closing nutrient gaps and planetary health. She is also an advisor to Google X and CEO of Juggernaut, a transformation bureau that focuses on placing capital and storytelling for an organization's next leap. Previously, she worked in the Obama administration and served as head of digital for Wieden Kennedy in New York. Welcome, Raina. So happy to have you on.
It's so nice to be here. Hi, Shauna.
Hi, I'm going to hit you with rapid fire. And it's funny asking this as the first question because you're in Mumbai, I'm in Seattle. Are you a morning or night person? It's nighttime there for you and morning for
Both.
me.
It's
Yeah,
both.
you're
I'm
probably
both.
working all
It's
hours of every hour of the day.
Yeah, it's a little wacky, but I would say I was a night person. I'm turning into a morning person. So I'm in transition right now.
Yeah. What are you doing to get up? Like, that's so hard. I'm a night person also.
I think when you're in different parts of the world, the sun kind of greets you in different ways, and it like really changes the tenor of your morning. Like a California morning is different than a Sydney, Australia morning is different. Like the
Yes.
light's just different. So
Well,
at
Seattle,
some
there's
point,
no light, just so you know.
no.
So we're like, it's a shit weather.
Right. So then there's the Seattle difference as well. So I think in India, I've been here through the monsoon. So like as every morning woke up, it was raining. I would just go back to sleep. But now the sun is here and I'm like, okay, I'm not missing this morning because I haven't had a lot of sunny mornings here.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I want to hear more about your life there, but I want to hit you with a few more questions. Is
Sure.
there a favorite comfort food? If you're just like, I want cozy and to feel like home, what are you eating?
Yeah. I am a khichdi girl. I really turn to my lentils and rice and herbal mush. That's always what I'm craving when I'm not feeling 100%.
That's healthy too. That's a good thing to be
Super
eating.
healthy. Yeah,
Yeah,
a randomly complete protein too.
big time. It's always hard to get the protein. And that's like when you feel like you're like, wait, is this allowed? And you're like, I'm actually eating something really healthy right now and high fiber, which is
Mhm.
great. What is the most useful spice in your kitchen at all times that you're like, this has to be there always?
It's turmeric. I mean, for me, it's turmeric. Outside of salt and pepper, I put turmeric in everything.
It's the anti-inflammatory.
Hmm.
I have a friend who makes really incredible cauliflower and she puts a lot of turmeric on it. It's so good. You put it on everything.
Everything. I mean, it's sort
Okay.
of at the base of every Indian dish, anyways. It's a game
Yeah.
changer.
No, you're going to make me hungry. What's one wellness ritual that you incorporate every day or that you can't live without?
Oh gosh, the irony of running a wellness business is that you spend very little time on your own wellness. So I do have one. I do like a warm water with lemon and salt in the morning before I have my coffee. It actually makes my coffee taste so much better. So that's been like a like newish in the last couple of years thing that I've done that really helps me wake up because I actually am not decaffeinated, I'm dehydrated.
Yeah, it's so true. And nothing sweet in there, just just no honey, just
No, yeah,
lemon
don't need it.
and
Yeah.
salt.
Yeah, and it's not like a full it's just like a couple of sips and lemon, salt, warm water.
Yeah, I'm sure that's so good for you. I've read all this stuff and I was like, tomorrow I'll start that and like kick it down the road.
Yeah.
If you could spend a week anywhere in the world, where would you go?
Oh, we just got back from the most incredible. 5-day trip to the Maldives, and I've always wanted to go, and I'm really now I'm like, I just want to go back. Like like I just want to go back to this serene. I mean, it serves no purpose other than for honeymoons, but I want to take myself back to a honeymoon.
Yeah. What did you do when were you just chilling, or is there like surfing or diving, or like what's happening there?
Yeah, there's diving, but I'm not a diver. I just rode my bike all around this tiny private island and just enjoyed this
Oh,
incredible, beautiful aquamarine water that you don't normally get.
I'd love to go. Okay, so tell me about you as a leader. What's one word that your team would use to describe you?
Oh, that's a very good question. One word is probably energetic. I'd say most days I have more energy than the 5 people on my team because I get
Yeah,
very excited about all the things we're going to do.
you're passionate.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And what about one word your kids would use to describe you?
My kids would probably say what they say to me every day, Mommy, you're always working.
Tell me more about you. Like, start from the beginning. Where did you grow up?
So I was born in Orange County. I'm an Orange County girl and grew up in the Bay Area in the Silicon Valley that like isn't there anymore, where people really were building startups out of their garage and everyone was tinkering. And it was a wonderful, idyllic childhood. I think I grew up on a street called Utopia Place. I'm not even kidding you.
It was
Yeah.
called Utopia. Is it obviously
It
still there?
still is. Yeah, it's still there.
Wow. How did your family end up there? Because they came from India, right?
Yeah, so my parents came to the US in like 1974 as newlyweds, and my dad had a job at Burroughs in Chicago, like as an engineer, and then he got a job in Orange County at Howard Hughes Aircraft Company,
Oh,
and then
wow.
got transferred, basically took a new job with Intel, and that's how we ended up in the Bay Area. So all that happened before I was 2. And then he stayed on at Intel for many, many years. And at one point we were supposed to move to Seattle and he turned them down, was like, I'm not moving there. It's too rainy. That's sort of when he launched his own entrepreneurial journey and became one of the first entrepreneurs to have a wireless network, an independent wireless network in California.
Wow. So you've been around the whole entrepreneurial thing. Do you have siblings? Are there any other entrepreneurs?
Yeah, yeah. I have a younger sister. And she is a founder of an interior design business, and she had a media business before that. So yes, it's
So it runs in the
all
blood.
it does. It does.
And how about your mom? Are you more like your mom or your dad?
I'm more like my dad, but I'm a lot like my mom too. I think it's kind
Yeah.
of hard to just choose which genes I get to
Yeah.
express at which times. But yes, I hear my mom coming out.
I know.
Yeah.
So when you're raised in a family that immigrated to the US, have so many friends who, and including my husband, was there an assimilation happening, or like, hey, we need to hold on to these core rituals, beliefs, values?
It's so funny being in India now and, really like in Mumbai where everyone is just hyper modern, like in not just their outlook on life, but like how they live. Like it's a very like modern Asian city. And when you come to the US from your village in like the 70s, you bring that village with you and you keep that village with you. And so like there just is this like very strong retention of what you know and like a protection of it. And it's not really allowed to develop or innovate beyond what was always known. So it kind of makes, I guess, Indian Americans a little backwards compared to what actually India is, which continued to evolve and like left the village behind in many cases.
So you're saying the Indian Americans are more rooted in the Indian culture than actual people living in India?
They're more rooted in a snapshot of time from when they left, and like that was what they remember, and so they practice that and they keep
Oh,
that,
that's so
but they
interesting.
don't necessarily evolve it the way Indians have the freedom to evolve it, because they are not trying to retain anything in a culture that's not theirs.
So interesting. I never really thought about it like that because yeah, it's just in the air. If you're in India, you can observe it through your food and through everything.
Yeah, Yeah, but if you're like a drop of blue in like a yellow sea, right? You have to like really retain your blue. You're like, I'm just gonna
Yes.
just keep the blue thing going here.
Yeah. Did your
You
grandmother
know?
come over also? Because I know that your mom and your grandma practiced Ayurveda at home.
Yeah,
I loved this. I read
yeah,
cloves for toothaches, peppermint tea for upset stomachs. I love all these things. Peppermint
all
tea,
of it.
I love. I'd never heard cloves for toothaches.
Oh, it's like clove oil here is the go-to. You just put any kind of toothache. In fact, like even can help you avoid root canals in some cases. It just calms the nerve, like it talks to the nerve. It numbs it.
Wow. My assistant in New York, her family, she had never taken an antibiotic. Like she was raised with Eastern medicine. I think she had taken more Chinese herbs. And
Hmm.
were you raised like kind of where they said, let's start with all these things, and if they don't work, then we can turn to antibiotics? And have you been able to hold on to that?
Well, not exactly. I think we were of that generation of American kids that basically got overdosed on antibiotics, right? Which is why we
Yeah,
all have like so much like gut
everything.
issues
Yeah,
and like why colon cancer is rampant in our generation as well. Like it just caused all this dysbiosis. But no, we definitely did a blend of Eastern and Western medicine, but it wasn't ever like, oh, I'm going to go do Ayurveda now. It was just sort of very much, oh, okay, let's just throw this together. If this is the symptoms, then this is the cure. And it was very casual in
yeah.
that way. It was just sort of really every day, like whatever's in the kitchen, we'll figure it out.
Interesting. And what were you into when you were little? Like, talk me through like middle school, high school. What were you curious about, and how'd you spend your kind of spare time?
I was like a pretty creative kid. I excelled with language arts and I was a spelling bee kid and loved all of that. I loved music and songwriting and the arts, but I absolutely was petrified of math. And I was okay at it. I didn't have that same sort of flow that I had seen
Hmm.
like some of my friends have. And, so I'm like, okay, liberal arts kid in that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. And did you have a sense of like, and you hear about entrepreneurs, they're like, oh, I had a whatever lemonade stand in second grade. Were you kind of an entrepreneurial kid or more
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I think my first job was babysitting when I was 10. So we babysat some
Isn't
neighborhood
it
kids
funny
who
the
were
people who let us take care of their kids? You're like, what were you thinking?
I'm like, wait, did they leave a 10-year-old home with like a 6-year-old? Probably.
I know I got left at 10 to babysit, and I was like, I don't even know how I put on a diaper or whatever I did.
I think we just knew how to do stuff
Yeah.
because I don't know. I don't know if you were the oldest child. I was the oldest child. I had changed several diapers by that point. Like it
Yeah.
was no sweat.
Yeah.
Like all my younger cousins and I think you just responsible.
Did you do like sports, or you said music, you liked songwriting and
Yeah, I was not, I feel like the sports eluded me. There wasn't like this organized soccer life that there is now. Like, or somehow it wasn't there. But yeah, music. I trained on classical Indian music, and actually my
wow.
grandparents lived with us, and my first language was Hindi and Punjabi before it was English, and then I kind of dropped them for English in preschool because I was like, oh well, I'm gonna obviously
Yeah.
sound more American than my my family.
But you've held on to the languages.
Oh yeah, I mean
Okay. You're speaking it with
I
your kids?
I don't speak it with my kids because in order to speak it to your kids, you need to have someone to speak to. And my husband is Australian, so he's not
Yeah.
a Hindi speaker. But it's funny, they're all learning Hindi while we're in Mumbai, and it's been lovely just to listen to them have their lessons and like pick up a few things.
Yeah. And so in high school, did you have a vision of like, I want to be like that person, or was there somebody that was a model to you that you could say, when I picture myself as an adult, that's kind of what I picture? Or were you just like, no, I'm just a kid?
In high school, I really did want to be a rock star. That was like definitely a focus. I was in a couple of bands. I was like, yeah, maybe this is like a real career path for me, you know?
I love that for you. And you went far away. You ended up at Boston University, which a lot of West Coast kids don't go east.
I know it was actually a fluke. So I almost went to Reed, I almost went to UC Berkeley, and then I was like, what am I doing if I don't leave the West Coast now? And I just like found whatever universal app, like extra checkbox I could click on, and I just went for what was the furthest possible school away from
Yeah.
home.
Yeah. So did you think you were going to be, I mean, you said rock star maybe, but you ended up studying film production, which is so sexy and cool.
Yeah, part of that life, I think, was part of music was really like the film expression. So it was visuals, it was sound, it was all of that. And I had a really creative crew of girls in high school, and we all really supported each other with photography and filmmaking and other art. When we took classes at community colleges, we'd drive up to San Francisco and take a bunch of extra classes. Like we were very serious about becoming artists at one
Yeah.
point. I don't know why. I don't know
Did
where that came
anybody end
from.
up becoming like a full blown of that crew?
Yeah, actually, a lot of us in different ways, like as graphic designers and some in like other visual arts.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, they did.
Yeah. And how come you went straight to, or I think you took a little time off, but then you moved to New York and went to NYU, got a master's in interactive telecommunications through that program. That was, I mean, not that early in digital media, but like, you know,
Oh, it was early.
kind of a
Yeah, it was
pioneer. I mean,
early.
it's pretty early.
Yeah, it was early. I know that many times I'd walk in the room and be the only person who knew how to make a website or had ever made one, right? So that's how I got my job in advertising. But I left film school. I went and shot a documentary for a year, came back to edit it, and I had an editing job. And all the equipment had changed. And so literally everything I had trained on for the last 3 years was now online. And I'm like, what is this internet thing? I have to go figure this out. And so that's why I really wanted to focus on the technology side, because I was like, this is just like eating everything alive. I need to know what it is and I need to harness it.
Yeah, very cool. So, what was that experience like? Would you do that? Was that a kind of pivotal and informed part of your life?
Yeah, it was wonderful. Well, I think once I was in Boston, I realized that Boston wasn't the same as New York because I literally had never been to the East Coast before. I was like, wow, this is so cool. I met my first friend from the Midwest. I was like, how exotic. Like, he's from
Yeah.
Detroit. And I made my first Jewish friend. I was like, wow,
Yeah.
you're from New Jersey? That's so cool. Like, like what
Yeah.
are these places? I've only ever heard of California places. And so then I was like, oh, wait, Boston's like really not new. I thought they were all these East Coast cities were the same. And then I just really started to like want to be in New York because that was the center of so much of the world that I cared about and the
Yeah.
design world and kind of where everything was happening music wise. And then so going to that program, going to Tisch in that time and being in a half technology, half art program was like wonderful. It was basically the same as the MIT Media Lab, but for NYU.
It's pretty incredible. Love that. And so then you started working in ad agencies and kind of getting what kind of ad campaigns were you working on and kind of how did you picture it and how was it different than what you
Oh,
expected?
so different. I think I really resisted advertising. It just felt very anti what an art student would even ever want to do. It didn't feel like the right move, but I had an experience. Well, you were there during 9/11. Like, you have, at one point, I was going to go become a video artist. After 9/11, I was like, I'm not going to become a video artist. That is not a critical industry that the world needs right now. But I was interning at Newsweek and I was temping. I basically took some temp jobs and I got placed at an ad agency that was actually across the street from my apartment in New York. So I was like, oh, well, that's convenient. And so I like walked over there. I was very confident, a fresh grad who had all this, digital knowledge. And these guys wanted someone who knew how to build websites. And it's like, oh, I can do that. That's no problem. And I joined Bartle Bogle Hegarty under the Cindy Gallup days. And the first project that I worked on was actually eSpeed, Tanner Fitzgerald documentary. that was, in memoriam of all of the lives lost at 9/11. So it really tied to my film work and my work I'd done as a documentary filmmaker. And it was meaningful. It was directed by Errol Morris. So it was just like this incredible first bridge into advertising where I was like, oh, it's not just selling crap. It's actually telling these really meaningful stories. Yeah.
As I was researching you, I'm
Yeah.
like, this is a person who has purpose and meaning. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, the ad world is so sexy in certain ways. And of course, there's whole stories around it.
It can
It can
be.
be, but then there's
Yeah.
a whole part of it where sometimes people are like, wait, what am I doing? I'm selling kind of things back and forth. But what am I like? What's my legacy kind of thing? So doing meaningful work seems on brand, I guess, with one of my experiences of like researching you. I'm like, you're a very intentional person, is the sense that I got.
Yeah, thank you. I guess I had a gateway drug in that case
Yeah.
with this documentary. And then that happened again when I left advertising. I was really tired of selling sodas and sneakers and I just was like, okay, what if I did something else with these skills? And then we got this pro bono client, which was one.org. And I was like, oh yeah, I can do this for the social impact world as well. I can do this for the government. I can take this work far and wide on different platforms and not just have to sell things.
Interesting. What made you decide to go back to school and get your degree at Harvard, the Graduate School of Design?
So after spending a good 2.5, 3, 4 years in advertising, I got really concerned about how much we were doing. And I was in digital, right? So we were just like filling up screens left and right. And then more and more screens were popping up in the urban environment in New York. And it's just like, what is this doing to us? Like, I just had questions. It's like, how is this like sort of onslaught of information impacting our brains? So I was either going to go into a a neuropsychology program, or I was going to go instead of to carry this investigation into the urban environment, the built environment. And I ended up finding a really great fit at the Graduate School of Design, where I'd be working with architects and urban planners without having to be an architect or urban planner, but the person kind of bringing in the digital layer and like thinking through it responsibly. Like, how are we going
Mm,
to kind of treat this technology in this new arena where it hasn't always been, or like where there hasn't always been screens? And yeah, and so that's sort of how I got there and what I was
yeah,
really
wow.
researching.
And you were doing all of that in conjunction with starting, I know that you started Juggernaut. I love that name, by the way. I don't,
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
after school, long before digital strategy was obviously what it is today. What was the idea behind that business and how did you land such huge accounts?
It was really, I think, if you work in advertising in New York, you will, it's it's so prolific, like how many clients you have and then how many teammates you have, and then everyone kind of agency hops. So you end up just meeting everybody in this entire industry, right?
Mm,
And fresh talent was coming. Like I was going and lecturing at classes and meeting students who were interested in doing projects. And so I was just in a very fortunate position where I knew lots of potential clients. I knew lots of potential folks who could collaborate with me. And I just had like this desire to kind of go out and do it myself. And the agency, we always were blessed with really cool, interesting projects, really phenomenal clients. And like I got to work with friends on so
I mean,
much of
it's
this
so, I
work.
was like, wow, these are the hottest Nike, Microsoft, Disney, Burberry. Is there one project or like a thing where you were like, holy shit, like I feel like I am like in the center of where I need to be right now?
Yeah, there were so many. Actually, there was this Coke and Facebook project that was one of the first kind of take your image and like map it over, like basically turn you into a 3D element. And so I loved like being, one of the first people to use that technology and apply it in a campaign. I mean, was it meaningful? No, but it was fun from a technology
Yeah,
perspective.
super fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what did that experience, like just overall agency life, teach you about, stuff that you've applied now, but we'll get into your new business or your existing business, but
Yeah.
just about kind of building a movement or creating something viral versus just kind of representing a brand.
Yeah, I think I was very lucky because I had such great team members, and I learned really early on, like, how you run a project. Like, I actually came in much more as a digital project manager, even though I was doing like some creative and I was doing lots of things, but like it was really about like the process. And once you
Mm,
really understood the process, you could apply that process to everything. Same, similar with filmmaking. Like once you understand the process from script to edit, you can do that to anything. It doesn't have to just be a film. It can be a product. It can be, an idea.
interesting.
And I think just being able to take an idea out of your head and make it real and put it into the world was really like what was driving my time through advert. I was like, this is just the best thing ever, is to like manifest these things over and
Yeah.
over again on behalf of clients, right? On behalf of whatever the need is.
That's so interesting because then you were tasked with like bringing that whole philosophy of like bringing ideas, storytelling, but to government, which seems like that would be a
Yeah.
heavy lift. Like when
Yeah,
you
that
joined
was
the
fun.
Obama administration doing,
Yeah.
I guess you were like, the title was Senior New Media Advisor. How does that kind of job,
Yeah.
do you apply for that or somebody taps you on the shoulder?
That was a shoulder tap. That was this woman, Katie Stanton, who's a really good friend of mine now. She and I met and we're chatting, and she's like, "Yeah, the government could really use people like you." I had just sort of come back from Malawi where I had started a solar nonprofit training. Like I just wanted to do something that was the opposite of advertising for a minute. But then I'm like, where else can I take this? And she had just left Google and she was, working at the White House or at State. She was working at the State Department. And yeah, and so I ended up at State because of her and had a really good run there. And then I got asked to co-lead innovation at the Broadcasting Board of Governors, as it was known at the time. It's now a defunct agency. It just got shut down, but it was 5 radio and television networks, and just looking after these radio and television era dusty old entities and bringing them into the digital era and like modernizing them and putting them on platforms like SoundCloud and iTunes and things like that.
Wow. I mean, it's crazy because whenever I'm interviewing people and I'm listening, I'm like, well, she's got to be like in my brain, I stall time and I'm like, there's no way she's done all of this. Like you've done a lot in your career. It's super
Yeah, I
cool,
just do
especially
it
because it kind
fast.
of
I just do it
apparently, well,
fast.
yeah, but then you're like, I'm in and I'm out burger. No, I think it's great though. And so you've also gotten your hands dirty in tech and venture and tell me about
Mhm.
some of those experiences.
Yeah, so when I left the government, I went and jumped into a nonprofit, and then I jumped out of that really quickly and joined a tech company. And
Like, no, nonprofit just wasn't for you, like pace wise.
yeah, I was like, no, this isn't the right side of the economy that I want to jump into after government. And then yeah, so I joined a startup. Actually, it was an investment that I kind of followed in and became CMO of, and we ran that for 4 years. We had an almost acquisition from Google, and then we had an investor step in and kind of blow up that deal. We ended up shutting down, even though we had
Oh,
revenue and we had 5 million users. Like so many things were going well, and we were just, in the process of launching an enterprise product in the US. And
oh,
it just was so close. But there are things you cannot learn in business school. You can only learn on the mean streets of Palo Alto. So I was like,
yeah,
okay, really important lesson here. Big takeaway. Never going to repeat like putting someone on the cap table that I don't 100% trust.
100% great message.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you're young or old, like you just have to listen for who gives you the heebie-jeebies and keep them far away.
100%. What did that business do?
So it was called Maven. It was an app engagement ecosystem. It was half in India, half in the US. And we started with India with all of our pilots, and we had about 100 or so apps live on the platform. And what it would do, because most people in India are on prepaid plans, they don't do postpaid plans, and they're sort of pay as you go. So we would say, hey, this app that lets you watch sports, if you download it and you share it with two friends, you'll get 5 megabytes. And so people would do that. They'd be like, okay, yeah. And sometimes the promotions would be like, you get 1 gig of data, and like people would just go crazy and, download it, the app, install it, share it with 10 friends, use it every day for 5, 10 minutes. So it was really a way for the apps to get the metrics that they were looking for and to promote use because it was so noisy. But at the same time, the users would get directly compensated. So they weren't just being used. Users weren't just being used, they were getting a free mobile data plan out of it.
Wow. I mean, I can see now today, I feel like that would be a harder business because of all of the
Hmm.
cyber stuff and all of the like, can I trust this? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like people have become so suspicious of anything where they're being asked to do something
Oh,
for
for
something.
sure.
It's
As they
sad.
should be, as they
It's
should
gotten
be.
so sad out there. And so tell me about a little bit more about your other tech experience after Maven. That's such an interesting and common story. Oh,
Yeah, yeah. So after Maven, I mean, it was a great team, fantastic people, fantastic experience, learned so much, and really proud of what we built. We sold it off for parts, and then we all went our separate ways. Some people went back, worked, took their jobs at Google. Some people went to Microsoft, where they originally came from, and I turned around and took a job at a Meteor Network, leading a portfolio around technology ethics, because part of what I witnessed in my time in Silicon Valley was that nobody spoke about ethics. Like it was not a vocabulary word that was ever used on purpose. So I was running a portfolio and responsible for building a movement, which was, in my like backpack of tools. It's like, oh yeah, I can build a movement for anything. Here's one thing that really needs a movement, was getting Silicon Valley to start a conversation about technology ethics and AI ethics at that time. And that was before there was a field. That was before like anyone had been funded. We funded some of the first people in the space. Yeah, I'm really proud of it. And I launched this tool well, it's a framework called the Ethical OS that basically lets you use 8 different lenses on whatever it is you're developing. And it's, really targeted to makers of technology to kind of have a little bit of foresight and kind of start using that muscle of what could happen if my product got into these hands, or what would happen if my product impacted this type of person, and start that dialogue, which we really did. And it's now been downloaded like over 1 million times. And then
that's
I got asked to do
incredible.
a course on LinkedIn for it, and that like is used. I mean, people take that course hundreds of times a month. So I know there was an impact made, and it was a free tool. It was never meant to make money. It was just to like really push this conversation. And I have to say, I see a lot of the language and the framework, because it was one of the very first ones out there that was like so easy to pass along and share and had graphics and all that. I see that language even in Chat GPT, privacy policies and ethics statements. I see the language like all over the place. And like, I know that I did that. I just can't tell you, like, I don't have a watermark on it?
Yeah. Well, you don't really need one. It's
Yeah.
important work and it's
Yeah.
necessary, and especially
Yeah.
now more than ever. I know that in early 2021, your family faced some health crises, made you kind of rethink how you approach food and healing, all the stuff from your childhood we discussed. Tell me more about that time period.
It was actually one really crazy day where I had brought my husband back from knee surgery, had LCL, MCL, everything replaced. And a couple of hours later, my daughter and my son got into a bike accident. They were thrown from the cargo bike, and my 5 year old at the time, 5 year old daughter broke her collarbone. And so she comes screaming into the house. 10 minutes later, there's EMTs all over our living room. And I'm basically rushing back to the hospital with her after being at the hospital all day with my husband.
I literally cannot even imagine that. As a mom, you're just in like fight or flight. Like, I'm sure you probably handled it beautifully, but how did you like help them through all of that?
So it was the middle of the pandemic, and there wasn't really like a lot of help. So I was really on my own, and I had my son who was, I think, 7 at the time. So between us, we're just running them drinks and snacks and hydration and everything that they could possibly need because neither of them could get out of bed. Neither of them could walk. So it was really intense. The first couple of days were just absolutely insane. And I think that's when I made the decision that I was going to put every minute and every ounce of food that went into their bodies was going to be promoting their healing so that I would no longer have to take care of them. That was the goal.
Yeah. So you had to go back to your grandma's teachings, right? Like all the
Yeah,
plant-based medicine and all the stuff that she had been sharing.
that's right. So I went back to kind of tapped into some of my mom's and my grandma's recipes and really some Ayurvedic standbys, some classics like turmeric and ginger, and did a lot of different concoctions for them. And eventually, pairing that with what I already knew about a little bit from Chinese medicine and from nutrition, I got essentially a lot of vegetables into a very small amount of seasoning. And that eventually became Spicewell because I was using that to season all of their meals.
That's so crazy. I mean, it's also nuts to think like, okay, I'm going to do this and kind of try to take care of my family and do some experimentation in the kitchen. And then suddenly, of course, in your style, because you're such a go-getter that you turn it into an actual company.
Yeah.
What was that? I know you bootstrapped the business. How did you fund it? I mean, there's a lot of R&D and a lot of kind of playing around. Did you just have faith that you'd figure it out?
I still to this day say it was an accidental company. I never set out to start a company, but there was just some demand early on, and then eventually buyers at stores were interested, and Mark Hyman was interested, and it grew its own legs.
Yeah. And how did you meet Mark Hyman? I mean, obviously everybody knows Dr. Mark Hyman. And how did you get kind of also USDA Secretary Ann Veneman? Like, how did you get some of those
Yeah, Anne
connections?
Veneman was actually my first advisor. So she was introduced to me by a friend of a friend. And then Mark, similar, like we had a lot of friends in common and we managed to meet in person. And I gave him like a little plastic baggie full of my Spicewell prototype and a roughly printed nutritional label. And he just loved it. He said this is absolutely something that he would support.
That's amazing. Getting into like the details of the salt and pepper, like, and by the way, like love, thank you so much. Like I have been using the spices and thank you for creating them. Like,
Oh,
I
I'm
know
so
that
happy
they
to hear
combine
that.
like 21 vitamins and minerals. Was it a matter of finding like what's going to be the most effective and then also what's going to taste the best? And how long does that take to kind of get that perfect formula?
Yeah, it did take about 6 months to formulate, but I really just went for what was the most nutrient dense that I understood. So broccoli, kale, sprouts, Brussels sprouts, and broccoli sprouts in particular, are even more nutrient dense. So I just played around with different proportions so that they wouldn't impact the flavor. Like at one point, tomato was really impacting the flavor, and we got it to a place where
Mm,
it wasn't. So now the formula is 9 vegetables, one full serving of vegetables in every half teaspoon. And then the
wow.
pepper is blended with turmeric and the salt is low sodium.
We need this. Everybody needs this. We have like such a health crisis, especially in the US. Like, we definitely need that. Is Spicewell gonna pursue a lot more products down the road?
Yeah, we have a lot of things in the works. So this year was a lot of planning, and we're formulating in some exciting new categories. And then we do have our number one most asked for seasoning blend is coming back, and that's our taco seasoning that's also highly nutrient dense. And that will also have about a serving of vegetables in each packet, which is like just helpful when, instead of making a whole other dish of vegetables, you can just add it into whatever you're cooking.
Yeah, that's amazing. And what role do you currently play in the business, and how do you see kind of that evolving?
All of the roles. I'm still
Mhm.
like, we're still very much a scrappy startup. I'm still CEO, and I'm also, I guess the chief creative director. I'm also the COO, and I'm also head of comms. So everything that we need to do, I will be doing it. But I do have some helpers along the way.
Good. Thank you for telling me that. I got a little anxious as another entrepreneur. I'm like, ay, ay,
I
ay.
know.
What is your like feeling about entrepreneurship and leadership in general? Like what do you think it takes to be a successful entrepreneur?
I think I wouldn't have started this business if I knew this business really well. So I think you have to have just a little bit more wonder and excitement rather than deep knowledge about what you're entering into in order to crack through and make something new in that category. Risk appetite has to be there to some degree. You
Hmm.
can't take a leap like this without that. But overall, I think being an entrepreneur is really just being organized and being thoughtful about where you're taking your next dollar and what it's
Yeah,
doing for the business.
incredible. And you're raising your family. Everybody sounds like they're good and healthy, but you're
Yeah,
doing that
yeah.
also while
Mhm.
like leading multiple ventures and staying so involved. What do you hope, I guess, that your kids are learning from you or seeing from the work that you're doing?
I hope that they will see that they can also chart their own path, that they don't have to be in a box. They can study multiple things and be multiple things throughout their lifetime. They don't have to just pick one career. I think that's pretty apparent for their next generation. Who knows? Who knows what they'll end up being? I just want them to have the freedom to choose.
Yeah, awesome. And what would you say is your ultimate fuel? Like what fuels you?
So what really fuels me is creating new things that haven't existed in the world, and that process of I have an idea, and then taking it from a thought in your brain into the real world is always the thing that just is the endless magic for me. I love that.
Yeah. Well, I wish you much, much continued success.
Thank
And
you.
I will be a lifelong supporter and customer. So, really appreciate
Great.
you for creating this incredible company.
Thanks, Shauna. It's been a pleasure to be here. And I also have a code for the listeners.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, so if you use What Fuels You, you'll get an instant discount when you check out at spicewell.com. And so that full URL is spicewell.com/discount/what fuels you.
Thank you so much for offering our listeners the discount. I think this is an incredible offer, especially this holiday season. I think it's a great stocking stuffer or just gift for anybody, a Hanukkah gift, anything. Just incredible to have access to this code. So appreciate it. What kind of discount are our listeners getting?
Oh, you're so welcome. It's 25% off for your listeners
That's great.
because it is actually a really easy, great gift. It's a great teacher gift, it's a great host gift. So,
Yes,
yeah, thank you. Thank you for your
love it.
support.
Oh, always. Yes, really appreciate it. Thanks again. Thank you for listening to the What Fuels You podcast. If you'd like to check out past episodes to hear from more business leaders, go to fueltalent.com/podcast. And if you have a minute, please leave a review and rating on your favorite podcast app or share this episode with a friend or colleague. Please share any feedback or interview suggestions for other guests by sending a message to podcast@fueltalent.com. I'm Shauna Swerland, and thanks again for listening.